Child after child is rushed to hospital. These still have some hope of surviving. But at least 5 children were killed in an Israeli attack on the Nuseirat refugee camp.
He was killed by an Israeli drone strike. He was killed and his sister is in a coma. They were waiting for me at the doorstep. May God punish all those responsible, the US and Israel. The bloods of this innocent boy and thousands of other innocent children are on their hands.
He was with his daughter around the corner, sitting and playing peacefully. All of a sudden, they were hit by an Israeli drone missile. I ran out to see all the children lying on the ground. My daughter was critically injured. She's in the ICU. And my son was killed. Oh, God.
This is the norm now. A never-ending cycle of killing in so-called safe zones that are anything but.
We were told this is a safe zone, so we put up more than 100 tents, sheltering hundreds of families in this area dedicated to the displaced citizens. All of a sudden, the Israeli warplanes started to carpet bomb the entire area. Where can we go? Our homes were destroyed, our children were killed, those still surviving are mentally wrecked and starving to death. Tell us what to do, where to go.
The cries for help, for a ceasefire, for an end to the horror, continue to go unanswered. Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera.
Genocide. Noun. The systematic killing of substantial numbers of people on the basis of their ethnicity, religion, political beliefs, social status, or other particularities. Genocide. Verb. To commit genocide against, to eliminate, a group of people completely.
I don't think that people really understand why that child lost his head. I mean, they understand that Israel killed him, but the overpressure from the bomb dropping, so that people understand this, the brutality. When a bomb drops in such close proximity, there's something called overpressure. The amount of air and the amount of pressure that that air escapes from that area of that strike is so massive that that small frame of the child is rattled so much that their rib cage collapses, their lungs, the alveoli inside of their lungs burst, and there's no place for the pressure to escape. So it has to go to the path of least resistance, and that's your eyes, your ears, your nose, and your mouth. And when the pressure is so much, your head explodes, as you saw that child's head explode. And again, I highlight this because I think it's important to understand that that's not accidental. That strike took place in the middle of the night. As you showed in that video in the beginning, where you can actually see each person and count, Israel had a video exactly like that, that showed them how many people were in those tents, how many people were in the area that they were about to strike, and they still decided to drop a bomb. And the question becomes, you're no longer in the defense, you're in the offense. Because if there are not rockets and missiles flying from that area, you don't strike. You don't strike. You just don't strike. And if there are rockets and missiles flying from that area, proportionality must exist, and you have to decide, is this threat substantial to my current forces on the ground? The answer to that is no. Is the collateral damage around this strike worth the actual ramifications that we see come out now? The answer to that is no. So you do not strike. At any other case, Greg, you and I, the commander on the ground, the sensor operator, the pilot, the JAG who approved everything, would all be in Leavenworth. Mm-hmm. We would all be strung up on charges, in our best dress, standing tall, because there is no legal capacity that we can honestly say that that's a strike that should have been done. You can't sit here and just say it's a war for everything, because even in war there are rules.
Well, first off, the chamber, as you can see, is of all steel construction. It's welded. It is, in fact, a tank constructed much like a diving bell. The windows are all gasketed, and they're coated before each execution with Vaseline to prevent leakage. The door is likewise gasketed and Vaseline and has a fastening system which seals the door against this gasket to prevent leakage. This chamber then further is operated under a partial vacuum. Above my head in the ceiling is an exhaust port from which the chamber is normally evacuated when they're removing the gas. That fan in this particular chamber operates during the entire execution. It pulls the chamber down to a pressure which is below that of the outside atmosphere, ensuring that if anything does in fact leak, all leakage would be inward. Further, the system has a plumbing system, this gas chamber has a plumbing system which is under this floor in a small room which runs over to an adjacent room on the other side, which is called the chemical room. The chemical room has the mixing container which is connected directly to the gas generator underneath the chamber and underneath this seat. The acid is mixed and then poured into the piping system, which then carries it under the chamber. On command from the warden, the sodium cyanide briquettes or pellets, which are in a container under this chair, are dropped into the gas generator. The gas then comes up into the chamber and kills the person who's occupying the chamber. There is a system of valves on the plumbing system to prevent any gas from flowing back, plus the fact the plumbing system is filled with water, ensuring an additional water seal to prevent gas from backing up even if the valves do leak. Just outside the chamber is the main air intake. That is opened only after the execution. Prior to the execution, the air intake is filled with water to a certain level, again to prevent backflow of the gas through the intake, even though the intake is closed and sealed. Around the inside of the chamber are intake ports that are connected to the main intake on the outside of the gas chamber. All of the lighting in the chamber, and there are 3 lamps over my head, 1 over the door and 2 just behind the seats. All of this lighting is explosion proof. It has glass envelopes covering the bulbs and cork and rubber gaskets inside, so that the envelope is screwed against the fixture, preventing any gas or anything in the air outside from getting inside at the bulb and seeing any sparking. So as you can see from looking at this facility, it is engineered from a standpoint that if a leak occurs, it will be inward. The explosion capabilities of the gas are considered because all of the lighting is explosion proof. Now, when operating the system, there is a protocol that has to be rigidly followed and a checklist that the operators utilize while doing the execution. From the mixing of the chemicals to the inserting of the chemicals to the closing of the valves and sealing of the system, everything has to be done and redundantly checked to make sure there is no leak and no operating personnel or any state witnesses, for that matter, who would be in the room directly behind me from being gassed. The operating protocol and the design is essentially what makes this chamber safe for operation. After the execution, the chamber would be evacuated for at least 15 minutes to make sure that there was no air containing gas left in the chamber. The chamber also has inlet ports in the inlet piping system that supplies the fresh air for the evacuation of the chamber. It has inlet ports for the introduction of ammonia vapor. The ammonia vapor neutralizes the gas that's left in the chamber prior to it being pumped out through the stack on the roof. After the chamber has been completely exhausted, the door would then be opened. The door would not be opened until all of the people outside were satisfied that there was no longer any gas in the chamber. There is generally a watch glass containing phenolphthalein solution someplace in the chamber which is visible through the window that the operator would view. The phenolphthalein solution changes color, and when there is no gas and the color is red, Then a determination is made, and only then that the chamber can be safely opened.